What is going on, everybody? We have Monday Night Football tonight. We have a nice little doubleheader for us. Two games. We have the Buccaneers at the Texans at 7 o'clock, and then we have the Chargers and the Raiders at 10 o'clock. Hopefully, you guys are coming off a very profitable Sunday, but if not, there's plenty of opportunities to make that money back tonight. For myself, I had a pretty solid Sunday. So, my player props, I actually had a pretty rough day in the player props. I maybe went like 3 and 5 or something like that. Only ended up hitting one big slip, but that one slip actually covered all the other losses. It was for $450 over on Underdog Fantasy. I had a nice 75% profit boost that I had on Daniel Jones, under 13.5 on the longest rush, and Trent McDuffie, under 4.5 tackles and assists. So that really saved the day on the prop side for me. And then on the straight bet side, I actually went 5-1 on my straight bets on the spreads. The only loss that I had was the Jaguars plus 3.5. Unfortunately, I thought had it in the bag when Joe Burrow went down. They had the lead. They gave it up late. They had the late touchdown to lose the game. The Bengals scored the late touchdown to win the game against the Jags. So only missed there. And all my survivor teams went through too as well. So really successful Sunday for me in my eyes. Hopefully we can take that momentum into Monday night tonight. Before I get into the plays though, I do want to remind everybody, join the free Discord server. The link to join is in the description below. The website that I'm using here, it's called Outlier.bet. It's a paid subscription website. If you want a free trial, that link is also in the description below. And also, subscribe to the channel, help me out here. I'm trying to build something up for us, build a really good community. And the least you can do is subscribe or just like the video or drop a comment of what your favorite plays are today. So first, let's get right into the bets. All right, first bet for tonight, CJ Stroud over 229.5 passing yards. So if Penix was competent last week, he's the quarterback for the Atlanta Falcons, if you are unsure. If he was competent last week against Tampa, he probably could have thrown for like 350 yards. But he settled for 298 yards. If you scroll down here, it shows a little bit on the bottom here. Michael Penix, 298 passing yards. He went over his 233.5 prop last week. I think this Tampa Bay defense is something that we can target heavy against this season. So I'm going to be on a lot of these Texans props today. Probably CJ Stroud, over the passing yards, Nico Collins over receiving yards, probably a lot of these things on the fantasy points too, over on Underdog Fantasy and PrizePicks and Sleeper. But this game is in a dome. It's at home for Houston. If I filter for games at home for CJ Stroud, he's gone over this number in 7 out of 9 home games over the last 2 seasons. Actually, they were all last season, but he averaged 255 passing yards in those home games last season too, getting a nice number here at 229.5. So I do think he's going to go way over this number, to be honest with you. You could probably ladder it up a bit too, because like I said, Penix, he almost threw for 300 yards. He probably could have threw for 350. Honestly, I'd probably take this all the way up to 300 yards. Stroud did show the upside a couple times at home with 331 and 345. He does need to get pushed a little bit to get up on that 300 number, but if you want to ladder all the way up, I don't think that's a bad play by any means. Well, my second bet, we're sticking with the same game. I'm actually going to have one player from each team that I'm going to go through on this video. So we're going to get 4 total bets, actually even 5 total bets in this video, a little bit more than normal. But we're going with Bucky Irving, but we're actually going to go with the under 63.5 rushing yards. Now, this chart is not going to look pretty by any means. He had a really hot stretch to end the season last year, especially once he got the lead role from Rashad Wright, and he really just took over, made a lot of really big runs later on in the season too. But last week, he only had 37 rushing yards on 14 attempts in a win against Atlanta. The Buccaneers were leading about most of that game. They fell behind in the fourth quarter, early in the fourth quarter last week. But most of the game, they had the lead, and Bucky just couldn't get anything going. Part of it too is that they are without Christian Wirfs, which is one of their offensive linemen. He's one of the better players on the line, and that might be an impact. But also maybe that Falcons rush defense is the real deal too. They did just shut down the Minnesota Vikings last night, so something that we can look at moving forward potentially. But anyways, I think this Texans run defense is also the real deal. Last week in a loss to the Rams, they only gave up 68 total rushing yards to running backs. Kyren Williams only had 66 rushing yards. I think the Texans personally win this game, and when the Texans are going to have a lead in the first half or early on in the game, the Buccaneers are known to completely abandon the run at times and just sling out. So I do think this Bucky Irving under might hit just because of the game script. But like I said before, even in the loss last week for the Texans, when they were trailing literally the entire game, their run defense came to play. So I do think it's a really good spot, regardless of what the game script shows for us. Now we're heading over to the second game, Chargers and Raiders. This game's at 10 o'clock Eastern time, so it's going to be a late night for us tonight. We're going with Lad McConkey over 72.5 receiving yards. He's gone over this number in 8 out of his last 9 games going back to last season. And the Chargers, they are sneakily a pass-heavy team. So they get the notion that, they have the public reputation that they're going to run a lot. But when you look into the deep advanced metrics, they actually have a pass rate over expectation in a neutral game flow of one of the highest in the league, if not the highest. I have to go look at the chart, but it was at like 18% or something, which essentially means they're just passing the ball regardless of what the score is showing. Even though Harbaugh has always been known as a run first coach, that might not be the case, and that really hasn't been the case probably about the last 10 games or so, which really shows in this Lag McConkey production. The Raiders defense also just gave up 173 passing yards to the Patriots wide receivers last week. If you look at that Patriots wide receivers room, none of them compare to the skills that Lad McConkey has and the connection that he has with Justin Herbert. I love him to go over this number, 72.5. I do think if you want to go even higher, maybe go over the 89.5, get a little plus money on that one. And if you're really ambitious, maybe you can go over 100 yards there. So you can put a little sprinkle on that too. But really good spot for McConkey, even though the game script, they might get a lead early on and hold it. They do pass the ball a lot regardless of the score. So really good spot for Lad McConkey this week. And then now heading over to the Raiders side, this is actually a double dipper. So I'm going to have 2 bets on Jacoby Myers here. First one is over 5.5 receptions. The second one is going to be over 60.5 receiving yards. I think this is a really good spot for Jacoby Myers. The Chargers allowed 10 receptions for 99 yards to Hollywood Brown last week on 16 targets. They pretty much just left him wide open. Obviously, the Chiefs, they did a lot of movement around the line and everything. And when Xavier Worthy went down, they really had to move Brown a lot more. But Jacoby Myers is the main guy in this one. Brock Bowers does have some injury concerns. I do believe he's going to play. I haven't really seen anything on like limited time or anything, but it's always possible. It's always a possibility when these guys are banged up that they are active but not active, which means he's on the field but mostly as a decoy, especially a guy like Brock Bowers. But this might lead to more opportunities for Jacoby Myers. Like I said before, the Chargers gave up a lot of receptions to the slot last week. Myers is going to run most of his routes in the slot, and last week he had 8 receptions on 10 targets, so he's obviously the main guy for Geno Smith in this offense. I do think it's a really good spot for Myers to get 6 or more catches. And then obviously if he's getting 6 or more catches, he's probably going to go over on the yards too, because he's not just catching screens or like these really, really short routes every single time. And if he does, it gives him the opportunity to run and get some extra yards after the catch too. I wouldn't ladder this up by any means. I don't think there's any need to try to go over 100 yards or anything with Jacoby Myers. You can if you prefer, but I do think just this is simply a volume play. If he's going to get 10 targets again, I'm pretty sure he'll be able to catch at least 6 of them. So hopefully you guys can cash in on some bets today. Like I mentioned before, join the free Discord server. If you want to see all of my plays and all of my slips, you're going to have to sign up for the premium package though. That link is in the description below as well. And last but definitely not least, best of luck on your bets tonight, and let's look forward to a really fun Monday Night Football slate.